I'll start with Nigeria because there's a lot to talk about Nigeria. And I'll allow you, Tani, to get in a bit, but just going to set it up here. Nigeria is currently in group. I think we're in Group C. Would it be Group C? Yes, we're in Group C of the African World Cup qualifiers. Just going through it, there are 6 teams in every group. So we got South Africa, Rwanda, Benin Republic, Nigeria, Lesotho, and Zimbabwe. And if you notice the order that I said that has something to do with the order in the table where each of those teams currently are. South Africa is leading this group with 13 points after 6 games played. Rwanda, Benin Republic, 8 points after 6 games played. Nigeria with 7 points after 6 games played. Lesotho and Zimbabwe at the bottom of the table. Fifth position, Lesotho has 6 points and Zimbabwe has 4 points. But to continue this conversation, we're going to start with Nigeria. I'm going to do both, and we're going to talk about Nigeria and Ghana, but I'm going to just set the table. Nigeria, the last 2 games, Nigeria went to Kigali, played against Rwanda, went away from home and won 2-0, 2 Victor Osimhen goals. Impressive victory, you would say, away from home. And in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, on the 25th of March 2025, at home, they drew 1-1. I saw some reports where it was reported as a loss. It was a 1-1 draw, but you can you can see why people think that Nigeria lost the game at home to Zimbabwe, that is currently last in the group. Was only 3 points in the group so far in 5 games. Now they have 4 points after the draw, but Nigeria played 1-1. Victor Osimhen with a 74th minute goal and an equalizer. I would remember that in the 90th minute for Tawanda Chirewa. I will remember that name, I think, for Zimbabwe, kind of almost knocking Nigeria out of competitiveness in the qualifiers. I'll just go through Ghana a little bit here, and then we'll talk about it. We'll just have time to talk about this. Ghana is in Group I. Ghana has won all Group I, right? Yeah.
Yes.
They currently have 6 teams in that group. Ghana has won 5 and lost 1, has 15 points, leads the group. I thought it was comfortable, but no, it's not comfortable. You got Comoros with 12 points, Madagascar with 10 points after 6 games. Mali is 4th with 9 points, Central African Republic 5 points, and Chad doing Chad things. Chad has zero points in this group. And just to recap the last 2 qualifiers within the last week for Ghana actually had an impressive 2 games. The first game, they played Chad. Well, Chad is last position with 0 points, and Ghana did what they're supposed to do to Chad at home, and they won 5-0. 5 goals, Antoine Semenyo, Inaki Williams, Jordan Ayew with a penalty, Mohamed Salisu, and Ernest Nuama with the 5 goals for Ghana. And just yesterday, Monday, March 24th, Ghana got a 3-0 victory away from home at Madagascar. Thomas Partey with 2 goals and Mohamed Kudus getting the other goal for Ghana. So, Danny, let's talk about these qualifiers and the path for both teams in your, from what you think about. Do you think Nigeria, we'll start from Nigeria first, and I'll comment on that and then we'll get to Ghana. Do you think Nigeria has a chance to be in the 2026 FIFA World Cup hosted by US, Mexico, and Canada?
Oh, thank you very much. I think there's a reason why people are taking the results earlier today as a loss, because everything was on the line for Nigeria in terms of catching up to South Africa or being as close as possible before the next round of games. So having drawn this game, it is football, so it is not absolute just yet. But from how South Africa is performing so far, I foresee Nigeria maybe being the second best in the group and possibly squeezing itself out through the best 4 second place teams in each group to play in the qualifiers you mentioned earlier. That is the most I can see for Nigeria currently based on the form and the results so far. And one other thing that has been slightly disappointing has been the lack of goal outlets outside of Osimhen. It paints a very worrisome picture, given the fact that Nigeria currently, at least on paper, has arguably the best attack on the continent in terms of the front line and where they play and how they play, and even the goals they've contributed so far in the top flight divisions across Europe. So it is quite surprising that when they come back home, there seems to be for all intents and purposes, it looks like there seems to be a challenge on outlets that can deputize Osimhen in terms of scoring goals and leading the team in a certain direction. Before this new coach came, this Sele, I've forgotten his
Eric
name.
Chell.
Eric Chell. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before Eric came, Nigeria, we knew where Nigeria was. So having won by 2 goals against Rwanda, the hope, at least for almost everyone who, specifically Nigerians, was that this would help with the momentum. And to a large extent, it did against Zimbabwe. And if anybody who is listening to us is to go back to the highlights, or for those who watched, how Nigeria conceded the equalizer is an eyesore, especially for the defenders that were playing on the day, and then where they play, and then given the fact that they play week in, week out. That was a very, very poor goal to concede, especially in the last minutes, playing at home with everything on the line. So it's a worrying thing to see. It would be unfortunate if Nigeria doesn't make it to the World Cup. But as things look now, it doesn't look likely that Nigeria can make it. That is pragmatically. But as I said, football is a game that sometimes doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it's not as logical as you'd want it to be. So I can't write off Nigeria just yet. Because as mentioned, Nigeria has the firepower. I don't know why the likes of Boniface do not get a shout in this team. Granted, the few times he's played for Nigeria, he hasn't been as efficient. I don't know whether it is based on the setup or just the fact that he's not as used to the teammates. But it is a worrying thing to know. And then there's the African best on the team as well, who is firing on all cylinders for Atalanta, but seems to be struggling in these qualifiers. So, on the one hand, as mentioned, pragmatically, it doesn't look like Nigeria will make it. But I won't write Nigeria off just yet, given the amount of firepower that Nigeria has in the front.
I am glad that you are very, I would say you have put out the case clearly. First thing I have to say is I don't find this any bit funny what Nigeria has done in these qualifiers. This seems like a good group to be able to come out.
Yes.
The tournament has been expanded, so you get a little bit more slots, your chances actually increase to be able to make the competition, right?
Yes.
Getting more groups, the way it's seeded by FIFA ranking and all that. And Nigeria is struggling. Nigeria, as you said, considered what you're leading 1-0, 74th minute. You need to get back in competition. Zimbabwe is the worst team in this group. They have only 3 points in 5 games. You're at home. You're in Oyo in the Akwa Ibom. The stadium is full. There are a lot of people anticipating. You went to Kigali and you got a good result. 2-0 away result up in Rwanda. That would have been the game that I would have thought. Away game, tough climate to go play. Out in Rwanda, you got a result and you come back home. You see, this is the thing we talk about in Nigeria. They have been celebrating too much and dancing kerewa. These people have been dancing kerewa. But first of all, I'm going to state my own personal case and my problem with this. And I'm going to take a look at my fellow people. This World Cup is coming to Canada, US, and Mexico. Nigeria wants to embarrass me. Nigeria wants to put me to shame and have nobody that I can actually support.
I'll get you a Ghana jersey.
So, thank you very much. Are you telling me that in a group somewhere in Canada here, I cannot put on a green and green because Nigeria has decided? You said it. You are very, very optimistic, but I think this was it. This is it. They are not going to the World Cup. So, what I would say is, if we leave the footballing part of it, the fact that no other person can score goals except Osimhen, the fact that you're leading with about few minutes to go in the game and you cannot shut it down at home, put pressure and make sure you don't kind of concede that. You get your coaching not setting it up properly. The players on the field, Osimhen was very pissed. He did his job, I would say that. Yes. But the other parts of the team at the end of the game not being able to do what they need to do to shut it down. I even want to put that at the corner to state my own case. I have to start applying and trying to get my Black Star verifications, endorsements, right? Because World Cup must happen. The World Cup must happen. So with Danny's permission here, we'll start looking into Ghana as an option. Ghana needs to secure that. We'll get to Ghana in a bit. But at least we know that backup. Maybe we leave Canada. Canada, we'll just... So what I'm saying right now is that I'm open for the 2026 World Cup for where I would go to be part of this World Cup event. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. But looking at it in general, very disappointing. I think this is it for Nigeria. In my opinion, they should have done a little bit better. Very disappointing in my as a Nigerian as well. But there's a good thing. We still got our African brothers. We can talk to our Ghanaian friends. We call them friends this time until we argue about other things. But for now, see if they can actually let us into the party. If Canada also allows us, we get into the party as well. But this will be not Nigeria kind of doing this, not to allow me to be a full part of this World Cup, is absolutely disappointing. That's how I'm looking at it. I don't want to say more than that. I know a lot of people are pissed about Nigeria not being in a Premier tournament. An expanded field for the 8 teams would be interesting. But I would have to say, as of right now, I'm speaking to you, Ghana is an option. Let Ghana secure theirs, and at least we'll hold Canada for hand. As they say, if they embarrass you, you choose another side to go and join it. So that's how I would leave it for now. But I think I wouldn't say it was interesting just watching that. That's the thing. I don't watch Nigerian football as much as I used to growing up. It's just heartbreaking. It's a common thing. So I would leave it at that. Let's get to Ghana and what you think about Ghana's part two being in the 2026 World Cup, currently having 15 points, leading their group. There's 4 more games to go. I think, 6 teams, 10 games, home and away. So there's 4 more games to go. They have 15 points. They are so very close. Comoros Islands. Impressive. I'm not sure I know any player in that team, but what do you think about Ghana's chances with Comoros breathing down their neck, 3 points behind, Madagascar 10 points? Well, they got a very impressive 3-0 win against Madagascar. That was huge. But let me hear what you think about Ghana's chances of making the World Cup.
Okay, again, thank you very much. I think for Ghana's chances, maybe Nigeria can compensate itself with the African Cup. Right, because we've qualified for the African Cup, whereas Ghana could not qualify. And I'm mentioning this as a prelude to what I'm about to say, because it was the team received a lot of flack back home for not qualifying for the African Cup of Nations, especially when we were seen to be in a comparatively inferior group. Right, so on the back of the backlash they've received in the past year for their poor showings towards the African Cup of Nations qualifications, the stakes were high. And I think they just lived up to it this time around with the 2 games they've played. That was on Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, and yesterday, that was Monday. And as you mentioned Comoros, and then you were hesitant as to whether you know them or not. But I think this goes to show, or it should give us, anybody listening to us, or people who are paying attention, that there seem to be no small teams on the continent anymore, or maybe even by extension in the world of football anymore. So if you think you're a powerhouse, you have to rethink it. If you've paid attention, because as a Ghanaian, I know Comoros very well because they were in our group in Egypt when when they kicked us out by scoring us 3-2, shamefully kicking us out from the group stage in Egypt during the African Cup. So I have paid close attention to them for some time now, and they play very good football. The Comoros government has invested heavily in sports infrastructure, and it seems to be paying dividends in real time as we speak. So I am not too surprised with the turnout so far in terms of how they are going neck to neck against Ghana, and even Madagascar as well. Because before the game, when Ghana played against Madagascar yesterday, it was a top of table clash. Right, so we knew it was going to be difficult, only for the Black Stars to surprise us with 3 goals. But Madagascar has been playing very well as well. And when they came to Ghana, it took a last-minute goal by Inaki Williams in the 90th, the last kick of the game, 90+5, to get a 1-0 win over them. So again, I'm putting this in context to say that there are no easy teams anywhere. So if you go into a group and then you have this mindset that, I am big enough, so I should bulldoze my way through the group and then qualify for the World Cup, then you have to rethink it. And classical case in point was Ghana's failure to qualify for the African Cup and Nigeria's current struggles with qualifying for the World Cup. Given that the teams in the group, on paper, the only team that should even think of having a conversation with Nigeria should be South Africa. But here we are, right, where Nigeria is battling with the likes of Rwanda and Lesotho. Right, so Ghana's chances of
Chirewa.
Exactly, right. So because the Zimbabwe I have known there was one player that I've always adored because he used to play for
Benjan Warware. Could that be him?
No, there was this guy who played for Orlando Pirates.
Oh.
No, the guys that were they're in Johannesburg. This Johannesburg.
Yeah. In the South African local
he was
league.
playing in the South African league.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic player. I've forgotten his name, but I hope I can.
If you remember, you can just cut in. Yeah.
Yes. So ever since I've known the Zimbabwean national team, he's the one that has been at the Kamabiliat. His name was called Kamabiliat. Kamabiliat. Yeah, he used to play for I've forgotten the name of the team, but Orlando Pirates. There are these two top teams in South Africa. Orlando Pirates, and then there's the other rival that plays in Johannesburg.
Melody Sundowns. I only know a few teams in that country.
Sundowns. There is the Sundowns, which came up recently. But the traditional, they have two traditional clubs that play in the league, and then they used to play their derbies always often. But that was Kamabiliat. But Kamabiliat has retired for some time now.
Kaizer Chiefs?
Thank you.
The Kaizer Chiefs, yeah.
He used to play for Kaizer Chiefs. So I say this just to say that, as you mentioned, there are 4 games left, and every game is going to be a tough contest. Mali would not come easy if Ghana is to play against them. Not to talk of Comoros, right? So it is not done yet for Ghana, and I just hope the players come September, because that is when the next round of games will be played. They would know what is at stake and then stand up accordingly to it, because it is not done yet, given how the group is looking so far. But at least back in Ghana, and for every Ghanaian, given how our African Cup of Nations qualifiers went, we take these 2 results for the World Cup in good stride, because we didn't expect them to do this well. They've been very poor for some time now. So as to where they got the motivation from, we hope they can keep it up.
Yeah, that's 8 goals in 2 matches. No matter the competition you play, 8 goals, especially when you play these continental games and qualifiers, they seem to be very low scoring games.
Very tough, exactly.
Very tight, low scoring games. So for Ghana to comfortably get 8 goals, 5 against Chad, 3 against Madagascar, that has proven to be a pretty good team. I think that's something to take off. And not just getting that, because Nigeria could have gotten 2 wins, but still be in a tight race, but getting these 2 wins and kind of setting up themselves for a good run to the end to qualify for the World Cup, right? So I would say Ghana has put themselves... Yeah, just give them a little breathing room. They would be the favorite to qualify from that group right now. If for nothing, only being at 15 points. I think I was just taking a look here, because there's something they call Group J, which is like a group just to see who are the top 2nd position players right now in Africa, and that group that would qualify for the playoffs, 4-man team playoffs, to get 1 person to represent Africa in the Interconfederation playoffs, right? You have Gabon right now with 15 points. Gabon is 15 points with being 2nd position, right? You got Cameroon, 12 points, Senegal, 12 points, Namibia, 12 points, Comoros, 12 points, Mozambique, 12 points, Burkina Faso, 11 points at 7th position. And what I'm trying to get at is, with Ghana's current 2 games, 6 points, 8 goals difference, not conceding any goal, it puts them in a great position that even if they slightly or somehow miss out qualifying for the World Cup again to either Comoros or Madagascar, they put themselves in a fantastic position to be one of the top 4 teams. Gives them a chance to kind of backdoor their way into the World Cup. Nigeria doesn't have a backdoor. You're 7 points. You're not even anywhere close to 2nd in the country with 4 games to go. If you're going to get 7 points in 6 games, what's the guarantee you can get 7 points in 4 games? So to even kind of get anywhere close to 15, 12, 13 points.
They might get 9 in 4. You never know.
Yeah, then you're hoping that South Africa completely collapses to be able to do that. That's also possible, but at this moment, I'm not actually holding my breath. But as I said, if Ghana does get it done, we'll be out here to kind of support the Black Stars.